In order for us to learn the basics of coding in EV3, we need to first look at the steering block. Now, the steering block is a very basic block which EV3 specifically created for two motors to work together with one another. So you may think about a programming block similar to setting values when you operate a microwave. You can set the number of seconds or cooking time the microwave can operate for, and we set each value depending on what we want the microwave to do. Similarly, we do the same thing for the robot that we've created. Now, as you can see here, we have a block here, an example block, and we would like our task for the block to be up here. We want the motor to run at medium power and take 3 rotations to move forward and then stop, right? So the first sort of step of the block is we want the block to be in rotations, right? As we can see here, we want 3 wheel rotations, so that means that we will simply set the steering block to operate in units of rotations. So we can simply do that by imagining pushing the rotations button, right? Next, we have this direction. Now, direction simply refers to the amount of turn that an object has. -100 being the sharpest left turn we can make, and 100 being the sharpest right turn we can make. However, since we just want to move forward, we're going to go ahead and set this value to be 0. Now, we're going to look at power. Power is basically a unit of how fast the motors themselves are going to run and speed up. So as we can see, our instruction says medium power. Now the way power works is it has a negative value and a positive value, similarly to direction. However, it is different in that -100 simply means that we would go backwards rather than forwards. So since we want to move forwards at a medium pace, we will simply set the value to, let's say, 50. Now we will continue to look at the amount of rotations we need. As we said earlier, we wanted 3 rotations, and since we've already configured the units to be in rotations, we can simply change it to 3. So the final thing that we need to choose is braking and coasting. Braking is when we choose and tell the motors to stop themselves after these 3 rotations have been made. However, coasting allows the robot to sort of carry itself onwards, but we will never use coasting. Generally speaking, we will always use braking.
Alright, so let's take a look at the first example that we looked at on paper. And I'd like to point out, as a prerequisite to this, we should always name our programs as a good habit because it leads to better organization. So I'm simply going to label this example 1 because that's what we have on the piece of paper. And so example 1 tells us, as we stated earlier, to simply move forward for 3 rotations at medium power. So we'll drag up our steering block and connect it onto the play, and we'll simply once again keep the direction at 0 because we want to go forward. We'll change the number to 50 for medium power, and we'll change the number of rotations to 3. And since we want to keep it stopped, we're just going to keep the check mark. We want to use our brake. Now that's it. That's all. Our program is done. If we want to export our program to our EV3 itself, we can simply hit the download button. And as you can see here, that's the sound you should get. And yeah, that's all for the first program.
In order to run the programs that we created on our computers and export it to the EV3 block, all we need to do is locate the file on the block itself. When we turn on the EV3, we are greeted with this screen. All we need to do to find the projects and the files within them is to click the right button. After doing so, you'll see a list of the projects that we have, and By simply clicking the center button, we can go through the list and select the given program that we'd like to run.